What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to break down a shorter version of the Top Gun 2 trailer, and then a medium length version of the Top Gun 2 trailer is going to happen directly after that. So stay to the very end of this video because this one's going to be completely different than the longer extended version breakdown that I did. I'm going to get into some nuances and some things that I think you're just going to enjoy hearing about. As always, please like, please subscribe. Thank you for being here on my company's channel, BJet Clean. I'm excited you're here. With that said, let's dive into some Top Gun 2. Right, so at the very beginning, he's doing this low-level flying, and he's actually doing a good job of kind of putting his body into the turns that he's making, because as a fighter pilot, you don't want to just use your neck. If you're just using your neck, first of all, it's just gonna feel terrible in the moment. You know, you're gonna feel like sharp pains in your neck as you're pulling G while you're moving your neck, and then you're gonna have long-term issues. So what I would always try to do is kind of like move my entire torso when I was going into a turn, and you're kind of looking around, obviously seeing where the different ridges are. Maybe you're gonna do a ridge crossing up ahead. So you're constantly twisting and turning, kind of getting your body into it. So I think they did a good job of representing that there.
My dad believed in you. I'm not gonna make the same mistake. You know what happens.
Not gonna make the same mistake. So I think he's saying Goose, so it's Goose's son saying, Goose believed in you, Maverick. You're not gonna make the same mistake. So there's clearly some drama that's happening. There's some drama brewing in the squadron. And I just wanna throw this out there because I've seen a ton of drama in fighter squadrons. I mean, weird. You get all these type A people together and there's drama, Don't know why that happens. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about squashing things early. And I think you can apply this to any job out there. No matter what you're doing, drama is not fun. No one really enjoys drama, but people feed off of it. And especially when you get really high performing people together, there's gonna be friction. You're gonna butt heads. There's gonna be moments where you might have to speak up when you don't want to, or you might have to speak up about an injustice. And at the end of the day, you gotta squash things extremely early. I remember this story takes place on a dark and stormy afternoon. I was flying air combat maneuvers, and I was the instructor at the time, and my wingman was supporting me, and I was the engaged fighter locked on to a bad guy. So I'm locked onto the bandit. I look over, and my student is supposed to be supporting me, but I'm the instructor, so I gotta keep an eye on him as well. What I see is a full belly of jet coming right at me, just getting big in the windscreen. So I pull like 7.5 G's straight up. I'm in an F-15E, so 7.5 G's is a lot. Okay, guys, leave me alone on that one. So the jet's getting bigger in the windscreen, and I just pull my 7.5 G's, and he goes, and if I wouldn't have pulled those G's and gotten out of the way, we would have smacked into each other, and goodbye, $120 million. See ya, giving those two back to the taxpayers. But luckily, I was keeping my eye on him and I got out of the way. When we landed, I wanted, internally, I wanted to just like go crazy, right? Like, but mistakes happen. I understand what, maybe he lost track of things. So I pulled him aside in private and I squashed it. I was like, hey man, you almost smacked into us today. And he's like, no, I didn't. I was like, all right, well, we're gonna look at the tape and I'm gonna show you. So I get the tape out. We go into the debrief room alone, just the two of us. I'm like, look at what happened. He's like, oh shoot, dude. So maybe if I would have been passive aggressive about it, I mean, that's an obvious one. You're gonna bring that up. I mean, that's an obvious one, but it could be something else, something different. You just rubbed someone the wrong way. If you're in a high performing group of people, you gotta squash things early. But I know they need the drama for the movie, totally support that. I'm just saying, hopefully you don't get the impression that fighter squadrons should have drama and not deal with it. We should be squashing things. And hopefully you're doing that in whatever you're up to as well. Family, professional life, all that stuff. Squashing things early, and then, what we would do is we would have a beer afterwards and then just chat about life, let that stuff go. Let it go. Like Taylor Swift would say, shake it off, man.
To you if you go through with this.
I have everything I need to have you court-martialed and dishonorably discharged.
The end is inevitable, Maverick.
What are you gonna do?
Here they come!
So this part's really cool. He's flying up this avalanche chute. There's like this cool canyon on either side. I would do this in Afghanistan on my way back from a mission. My wingman and I, we would fly back to base low level with our extra gas. And it's just one of the most incredible experiences ever, like flying up this massive avalanche chute. I'll try to find some footage of this and put it in another video. Let me know if you want to see that. Comment below, say, show us the avalanche chute videos. What I want to tell you about is just like that feeling of like going up this thing that looks like a pathway. It's like a white carpet. This white carpet's made for me to just fly my fighter jet up an afterburner, baby. You gotta be careful, right? Because the mountains are 18,000, sometimes up to 22,000 feet over there. So you gotta make sure that you can get out of the canyon, that you're not just gonna hit like a wall and there's a 22,000 foot mountain right there, because with that high of altitude and carrying all those bombs, even in full blower, there's gonna be a chance that you don't make it up that thing. So you gotta plot your course, make sure you're, going a way that you can actually get out of. And we had this moving map, and so I'd have my Wizzo in the back kind of plot a little course on it and make sure that the elevation gain wasn't just like, going up steadily and then boom, wall. But flying up these chutes were so much fun because it was essentially just like you were in a video game and you're just raging up these avalanche chutes. The walls are passing by you, 500 miles an hour, and you would just do these ridge crossings at the top of them. Super fun. Oh, speaking of ridge crossing, Maverick does this ridge crossing here. So it's funny because the Navy has like a little book, and the little book says, hey guys, please don't do these 14 things. These are the 14 things you can't do. The Air Force has like 7,000 pages of manuals, and it's like, these are the things that you can do. Anything outside of those, and you're gonna be explaining yourself, standing at attention in your blues, like, sorry boss, I forgot to read page 6,233, paragraph 14.2. I love the Air Force. Obviously, I'm an Air Force guy, former F-15E, Thunderbird pilot as well for the F-16. So I love the Air Force. Air Force, if you're watching, I love you. I do. But I do like the fact that the Navy's culture has less red tape and less rules. I just think that that's a great way to operate a fighter jet because there's a lot of gray area, there's a lot of nuance. And so if you're always on edge, like, did I read everything I was supposed to read today? Like, it just affects your ability to think creatively, in my opinion. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I like to hear myself talk. But besides that, Maverick's doing this ridge crossing at like 180 degrees. So his jet's fully inverted to the ground, which I support. I think that's probably a perfectly reasonable way to do a ridge crossing. But there's a training rule in the Air Force where you have to go no more than 120 degrees. So basically, I think it helps you keep, right side up and like know where the ground is, which shouldn't be that hard anyway because there's mountains and sky, and you're never going to be doing this in clouds. But maybe something happened at some point, someone popped into a cloud fully inverted and they were disoriented and didn't end well. I'm assuming that's why, but there is a 120 degree limit on ridge crossings in the Air Force. I always abided by that as well. All right, so that's the end of that short one. Now we're gonna get into the medium length trailer. This one's really cool, so I'm excited to see this. The F-14 is just iconic. What a good looking
Your
plane.
instructor is one of the finest pilots this program has ever produced.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the afterburner selection of the F-18. I've ridden in an F-18, but it was in the back seat for 2 sorties. I was doing an exercise out in the Nevada desert, and I got to fly in the back of one of these bad boys. It was a Super Hornet, and there was like a little nub down there just moving around. There was no stick or anything. But I know in the F-15E, when you go into afterburner, you have to go out and then into afterburner. Now, I don't know if he was going to afterburner in that scene. I'm just assuming it because why not? You should always, if you have the option to go into afterburner, do it. So you rotate out and then go forward in the F-15E and in the F-16 just to give yourself a detent of boom, I hit mil power and now, okay, out and up. Now I'm in afterburner and I have like 4 minutes of fuel total if I stayed in afterburner, something crazy like that.
His exploits.
Descending barrel roll, you've heard me talk about those before. Fun, just fun. Highly encourage it. Quick side note story on that. I was doing it one day with a lieutenant colonel in my back seat. I was a captain at the time, and I was repositioning to the other side of a formation while we were setting up for some defensive counter air before a big fight out over the Atlantic Ocean. And I rolled to the other side, and he was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "I'm repositioning the other side of the formation, sir. What's up?" You know, I'm like, "Dude, I'm getting ready for this huge, like, elaborate fight we're about to do. What are you talking about?" But he was just more middle of the road guy. Like, you know, I think he, you know, had a perfect part in his hair. No offense if you have a perfect part in your hair. But essentially he was like, "Dude, what, you know, you went upside down, you could have just gone underneath and over." I was like, "Yeah, it's more fun that way." And so we landed, and he was like, "What was that about? What was that reposition about?" Because I think he was trying to see if I was like lacking flight discipline, which is like a big no-no for a lot of the bosses. Like if you do an aileron roll on takeoff or something crazy like that, that's lack of flight discipline. So in his mind, I think he's like, "Well, what's this captain up to, you know?" And I was like, "Boss, it was the fastest way to do it. And honestly, it was really fun." And I think it achieved both of those things by being effective, helping us get in position for the fight sooner. And we got to go upside down. What's the problem, boss? And I wasn't maybe as forward with him because he's my boss, and you know, there could be repercussions, but at the same time, you gotta stand up sometimes when someone tries to like assert dominance for no reason. No matter what their rank is, if you're just, you know, giving the facts and you're being respectful, I think people respect that. So don't be a sheep. Stand up for, you know, things that make sense.
Are legendary.
I will say, like, right, he's riding up to this F-14 on a stick, and there is something about it. Like, even if you fly the jet every day and then you pull up into one of these parks that has all these jets on a stick, there's just something epic about it. Like, it's just kind of a, I don't know, I would say it's more of a, like, I don't want to say maybe quite spiritual, but maybe it's like this moment where you're reflecting on how awesome it is that you're gonna go fly one of those that day, and how it incites this feeling of freedom and excitement inside of you. And it helps you also remember the fighter pilots that have come before you that are just creating this incredible moment for you to enjoy. So highly recommend going to like air museums and things like that. There's just a lot to be gained.
What he has to teach you may very well mean the difference between life and death.
All right, so they're all in this hangar together, and the speech there is the difference between life and death. And honestly, we would get together in big spaces like this, maybe not in a hangar with the jets there, but we would get together in what was called pilot all calls, and we would talk about close calls and things that happen that maybe would save someone's life moving forward, and that we all needed to hear prior to going and flying that week or whatever. So that's not that unrealistic, but it just doesn't happen very often that we would all do that.
Your reputation precedes you.
Slams on the brakes and flies right by. I'm not going to dive into that one because I did dissect that a little bit on the extended trailer breakdown.
I admit I wasn't expecting an invitation back.
They're called orders, Maverick.
I think this part's really cool here when Maverick puts his hand on the radome of the jet. There is some sort of a kinship with the aircraft that you fly as a fighter pilot, and Robin Old's an old Vietnam era fighter pilot who was just an epic pilot. He was an ace in Vietnam. He talks about strapping the jet onto yourself. So, I mean, there's like an avatar when he rides that dragon, he kind of like intertwines like his hair to the dragon, you know, and they like connect and become one. I think there's something to that. And I would try to do that when I'd put my gloves on in the cockpit and just kind of put my hands on the stick and throttle and be like, all right, this jet is a part of me now for the next 3 hours or whatever, you know, your combat mission was or whatever your training mission was. It's a mindset of I'm going to make this thing do what I want it to do. I'm not gonna let it control me. You know, and I learned that lesson relatively early on. I remember taking the runway in a T-38 during pilot training, and I had put the throttles up too high, and I wasn't clear for takeoff yet. And so I'm going like, I mean, this is just the truth, guys. This is just reality, you know, it happens. So I had the throttles up too high. I pulled onto the runway, and I kept going too far to the edge. And I was like, oh no. And then something clicked in my head where I was like, I am in control of this jet. This jet is not in control of me. So I just went wham, like ripped the throttles back. I know it sounds simple, but in the moment that jet's a little bit intimidating, you know? I just ripped the throttles back, cranked the nose to the right a little bit without, you know, like rolling a tire or something like that. Cranked the nose to the right and just stopped. And I'm like kind of on the side of the runway. And I was like, hey, I need to taxi back. I need to go down the runway, taxi back, and then re-line up on the runway. It was kind of like a hit to my pride a little bit, but at the same time, I was like, this thing is like a glorified lawnmower. This thing is connected to me and it is gonna do what I want it to do. And it took little lessons like that of realizing like, okay, look, I'm gonna make this happen. And I did the same thing when I was doing like a rejoin on the Thunderbirds, when I would use the rudder on the F-16 to fall into position or to slide into position. So I would basically come in at like probably like 300 knots of closure at a half mile. And then I would use the speed brake, but also the opposite rudder to go wham into position as I locked it in to position on the left side of the formation. And it was more of a mindset of like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this jet stopped and be very expeditious. So using that rudder was like my version of like, hey, you're gonna do what I want you to do, jet. But it's becoming one with the aircraft, and then you fly your mission and then you come back and land. And it's like you disconnect from that jet. It's actually a cool feeling. So I think Maverick going up and touching the airplane is kind of like, you know, going up to a horse and you're like, all right, hey, I'm in control of you right now, but I respect you. I have a healthy respect for the danger that could happen and how small the margins are for error. All right, there's Maverick launching off the carrier, and you guys have seen my previous video. Maybe I didn't dissect this one correctly before, but yeah, when you're launching off of a carrier, your hands are gonna be up off of the stick, and then you grab the stick after you've launched. Air Force guy, Thunderbird guy, they need to get a Blue Angel to do this. Where are the Blue Angels at? Come on, guys. You guys should be breaking down this Top Gun stuff. Or the Air Force just make cooler movies.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking. Today's exercise is dogfighting.
2 versus 1? He's got to be kidding.
And Tom, I really hope one day you watch this video and we can go fly the P-51 together, because there's some 2-seaters out there, I'm pretty sure. All right, I talked about the brake right. I think he said smoke in the air. Never heard that one before, but I think, you know, looking out for your wingman and telling them to brake left or brake right flare is huge. And like I said before, I know that you've heard this, but it's worth saying again, guys. If you're gonna brake right and flare, be out of afterburner, please. But another thing to think about as well is if the sun is there and you're trying to shoot a heater at another aircraft and the sun's there, that thing is going to take that heater away from the aircraft as well. So if you look at the priority of the heat signatures, your biggest heat signature is going to be that big yellow orb in the sky. Your next one would be your afterburner if you're an afterburner, and then your third biggest heat signature would be a flare. This is awesome. You know, I think the fact that he's doing some SpaceX type flying is super cool, and I would just say, you know, they needed to put Elon Musk needed to do a cameo or something like that in here. Maybe it'd be Richard Branson, because Richard Branson does more of this type of aircraft, I think. All right, so hopefully this thing comes out soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Really excited that you're here for this breakdown. Hope you got a lot out of it. And remember, every time you smash that like button, a fighter pilot's soul becomes more alive. And hey, maybe subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for checking out my company, BJet Clean. We make soaps, shampoos, and body washes that are aviation themed. fighter pilots can make soaps that smell great. So check us out at bjetclean.com. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.